This is Comic Picks by the Glick, and here's your host, Jason Glick.
Glick, yes.
He has to wait.
Yeah, here I am.
He has to wait for that, otherwise he just cannot start.
So yeah, you don't give me the proper introduction. It's like, Okay.
What a letdown.
Yeah.
You son of a bitch. You're fired.
Oh, shit.
No,
Okay.
Not you. I'm fired.
Okay.
How do you fire the guy who
I don't
Never mind.
know.
Who
Anyway.
produces the podcast?
Yeah.
I kind of produce it.
Yeah, if it wasn't for you, it's like, there wouldn't be any of this. But,
I guess not.
So otherwise, yeah. You know what you do.
It is all his fault.
Yes.
Largely.
Mm-hmm.
It's direct your hate mail to brianjohnson@gmail.com.
Go ahead.
Exactly. Okay, and this week we're talking about a series that I've been spent the last week or so rereading. It's called Starman, like a DC Comics series written by James Armisen, art by Tony Harris and Peter Snejbjerg.
Not related to the movie?
Not related to the movie by John Carpenter. So,
Or not related to the other thing Myron mentioned earlier?
what was the other thing you mentioned earlier?
Myron? Starman is not related to the movie?
Not the John Carpenter movie, and what else is he not related to?
What comic were you talking about earlier?
The one you're reading right now.
Starman. I'm reading Starman right now.
There's a movie named Starman.
I know.
Which is
with-
not related
with
to.
Jeff Daniels.
Right.
It's not related to Starman, but starring Jeff Daniels. No.
No.
But
Or
what were you guys
the
asking me?
Rockman thing either.
I'm looking at art right now, so I'm like. Totally
Okay, we'll
lost.
come back to this later.
Yeah,
Okay.
we'll come back to this later.
Okay, but recently the series has been re-released in a series of omnibus editions. We're talking like really pricey $50 hardcover editions that collect a big chunk of the series, as opposed to trade paperback editions that were released as the series came out. And why the series would deserve such a hardcover re-release? It's like, well, that tells you like how important it was for the time that it was released. And the thing is about the series, it's a story of Jack Knight, like the son of Ted Knight, the Golden Age Starman. Like in Golden Age Starman, he's just a guy who had a star rod that drew his power from the stars, like zap bad guys, allowed him to fly, fight evil, like all that good shit. But his son Jack, he was kind of looked at that and thought, this is really kind of goofy. He's like, why do I want to be part of this? And so his brother David Knight, basically took up the role of Starman, and he survived for a little while. And then in the very first issue of the series, he was shot dead. So you've got the Starman's arch enemy, the Mist, his son, doing his best to take out the son's the legacy of Starman, and basically establish his own legacy. And then you got Jack Knight, the son, who is basically the son who doesn't want any part of this, but then realizes he's got to take up the mantle in order to survive, because Mist wants him dead as well. And as he does this, it's like he slowly realizes I do appreciate my father's legacy. I do want to do justice by him. That's the thrust of the series right there. But what sets Starman apart from other series, and why it's getting this deluxe hardcover reprinting as of right now, is the fact that more than any other character at the time of the 90s, is that Jack Knight is probably one of the most realistically written of modern superheroes. I mean, you hear him, he's got his own passions, his own drives. I mean, he's basically a junk dealer. He's got his own junk shop that's destroyed in the first couple of issues, but his passion is for these stuff of old, like old TVs, old china, old books, old everything. And it's his interior monologues that really bring the series to life, where you hear him speak, and it doesn't sound like a superhero. It's like, oh, I'm going to do the right thing because I'm a hero, and that's what heroes do. It's like Jack's oh man, it's like, this is so scary. I'm gonna piss my pants because this stuff's going on. And it's like, what am I gonna do? It's like, I gotta do something. I gotta do right with my dad. It's like, I gotta save, even though I have no idea what I'm gonna do. And that's more than anything else in this series. That's what sets it apart. I mean, Jack Knight's interior monologue, his humanization over the course of the series, is what sets the series apart more than anything else. I mean, Jack Knight is a real human being. Like, he's just like you or me. Only the thing is, like, he's got a superhero legacy to live up to, and he's got his dad's star rod in order to use, and like, well, not his dad's star. And this is like a version he's manipulated for his own use, and he's got to he uses it to just be a superhero, and like he's got his own. I mean, he's got his own style. I mean, and eventually, as he's like taking up the mantle of superhero, he realizes, like, you know what, saving, like, fighting crime, saving innocent people. Like, that's a rush in and of itself. I mean, like, hey, like, I'm doing my thing. Like, it feels good. It's like I'm of the lawful good alignment, and like that's it. That's a plus, man. Like, I feel so good, like, saving all these people.
I'm sorry to interject, like, so.
No, go right ahead.
But can you explain a little bit more about? As I'm skimming through and looking at the artwork, I see the brotherly conflict.
Yeah, because that's the thing about Jack Knight at first. He has no respect for the profession of Starman at first. Like, he looks at it and think, oh, it's just another guy in tights, like fighting bad guys, and just, like, you know, stopping bank robberies and some people knocking over 7-Elevens and shit. But then after his brother is killed in the line of duty, and then he tries to talk to his dad about this. His dad realizes, like, his dad Ted Knight, the Golden Age Starman, like, knows that his son, like, oh, I know you don't care about this. So, like, you know, just get out of town. Just, like, save yourself. You're my son, and I love you, but you're not going to be Starman. You're not worthy of the mantle. And so this is when Jack Knight realizes, like, you know what, I've got to do something. I've got to go, and there's something I can do. I can try and save the city of Opal, which is Starman's home city, from the mist and his machinations. And so that's his most operandi at first. And as things go on, Russell brings him in contact with the Mist's daughter, who basically reimagines herself as the second generation of the Mist. And basically, she does her own crazy shit. I mean, it's like her daughter, her father, the Mist, realizes that she's not going to be the real second generation iteration of the Mist. She's just like the stuttering little girl who likes her dad and wants to appeal to him. But it's his son who Jack Knight eventually kills in the first arc is going to be the hero. Well, I mean, the villain in this case. And so she basically undergoes a process, turns herself and gives herself the power of the Mist, you know, to turn intangible and shit. Mm-hmm. Yeah, and then she eventually, at one point, rapes Jack Knight while he's unconscious and fathers his son.
What?
Yeah, and then eventually goes on to kill 3/5 of the Justice League Europe because she wants to prove herself as a A-list villain. And, like, she's got her own agenda right there, but it's more, but that's interesting and stuff. But it's more Jack Knight's struggle to become, like, his reactions to becoming a hero that make the series worthwhile. I mean, like, he's a very relatable character. He's like an ordinary guy that just happens to have a superhero legacy assigned to himself. And, like, whether it's him, you know, like, fighting the Mist, fighting a guy who's fighting a mad bomber who's laying bombs throughout Opal City. It's like. Or just, like, assisting a pirate's ghost in finding redemption for his past sins. He's relatable and understandable throughout all of his quests, and that's what makes the series great in and of itself. I mean, this is the Jack Knight's relatability by writer James Robinson is what makes the series great by itself. I mean, more than anything else, like, that's what you're gonna remember the series for. I mean, you also remember it for for the Shade. The Shade is ostensibly a villain, a guy who has the power of the Shadow Villain, the Shadow Dimension, and Shadow Imps to kill people for however he wants. But he's just in it for the fun, to prevent himself from being bored. He's an immortal, and he's got to find some way to just, you know, like, keep himself occupied while he's alive for, like, the past few hundred years or so. But he's a villain for, like, all the major, like, superheroes. All the Golden Age superheroes, at least. But for when he's in the city of Opal, that's his hometown, and he's all about protecting it, even if he is a bad guy, and willing to just, like, you know, assign you to this, like, evil dimension where, like, you're tormented by his shadow characters at all this time. But Now, even though I've said like it's worth reading because of like the ability of Jack Knight, and even that transcends this transitional superhero archetype. And while you got the Shade, who's like a really good representation of the cool, lawful, evil villain, who is just like he's got his own agenda, but he's just like he's just out to have fun by himself and just like abide by his own rules and regulations. That's fun in and of itself.
Now, even though the audience can't see this, as I'm skimming through the comic book, like I have to admit, like the artwork is like it's like traditional. To me, I look at it and it's like traditional comic book style. But you're talking about the character Jack Knight, and as I point this to you, this is Jack Knight himself, right?
Yeah.
He's Starman.
Yeah.
What about this character right here?
Okay. Now, for those of you at home, it's like I brought the first volume and the last volume of Starman as reference. Okay. I can't really explain to you. Well, I'll probably explain to you right now, Myron. But the character you're looking at is David Knight, who is Jack Knight's brother, and he was the guy who was killed in the very first issue.
Okay.
Now that doesn't stop him from showing up in the series later on because he's brought back in spirit form over the course of several issues, which are called Talking with David, where Jack and David explore the relationship. It's like once each year.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, but the thing is, like the culmination of the relationship is in the final volume, where you find out that, well, let's just say David actually, while he was only Starman for a few weeks in the present day, he's actually been Starman for a lot longer in the past.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So that's the thing right there. But actually, going to think about the past though is that the main issue I have with Starman is that writer James Robertson is really good at writing at characters. He's not so good at actually like superhero plotting. I mean, you remember the characters and their actions in the series more than anything else, but the actual superhero plots, I mean, it's just like like bad guys show up, they fight, our hero finds a way to outsmart them. And there you go. That's your story. I mean, like, you get some nice stories when he teams up with the Golden Age Sandman, Wesley Dodds, in order to find out who's sabotaging this airship launch, or when he fights the infernal Dr. Pip and his bombs that he's finding throughout Opal City. I mean, like those are fairly conventional superhero plotting stuff, and it's not bad, but it's more. I realize those stories are more to facilitate Jack Knight's growth as a superhero rather than to just like be actual compelling plots in and of themselves. The other thing, though, is that the more you read this, the more you realize that there's a bit of throat shoving going on. The fact that, like a lot of the superheroes you'll see in Starman are of the Golden Age or Silver Age variety. Like you get to see the Golden Age Sandman, you'll see the Golden Age Green Lantern, or a bunch of other Golden Age superheroes you've never even heard of, and you're wondering like, what are these people? What are these people special for? What are they even doing here? And it was this kind of an agenda right there by Robinson. He's trying to bring these people back in this series, show you how cool they were, how much they were like what these people were like, what they were, why you should appreciate them, And I look at this and think, okay, I understand. Like, yeah, you're doing a good job you're doing a decent enough job working them into the series. But I get the feeling you're showing this only because you think they're cool and you think I should like them. And that's an issue. It's not a deal breaker as far as enjoying the series goes, but it's kind of like, unless you're like into like finding out like the old history of Golden Age superheroes from the DC, then you're probably going to be annoyed. I mean, in the series' big climactic arc, Grand Guignol, where the Shade goes crazy and starts taking over Opal, you also find out like Greg Ronson works in this. The main villain of this arc is basically a walking, talking retcon on the part of James Robinson to show you why the Shade was acting like crazy and goofy in the Silver Age, as opposed to like the suave collected supervillain he's presented as in the Starman series proper today. I mean, it's like he's trying to present this one continuous history for Starman and his villains over the course of the series, and that's kind of like. I mean, I'm impressed he manages to pull it off, but it's one hand, it's kind of like it's more a appreciation of form rather than appreciation of actual story. That being said, one of the things about the art though is that series main artist for the first half of the series is Tony Harris, and he does a lot of good stuff in terms of style, presentation, and just he's got. I'll say it again. He's got good sense of style, like the panel layouts, the action. It's good stuff. It's interesting. It's fascinating to see him at work, even if the stuff you see here as it goes on starts to bear some of the hallmarks of his photo referenced work in his modern day stuff, like in Brian Vaughan's Ex Machina, and that's kind of more annoying than anything else. But still, you look at this stuff and it's great stuff in the first half. The second half is done by Peter Snejbjerg. And okay, I like Snejbjerg is good enough. He's got a good sense of story. He's got his own style, but looking at him compared to Harris is a letdown in most ways. I mean, he doesn't have the real like dynamic sense of style that Harris has. It's like it's just not quite as good like most part. I mean, I'm glad that he was able to do pretty much all of the issues from here on out after he signed on. That it's good that he presents a consistent artistic style, but it's good, it's decent enough. But after Harris, it's a letdown. But overall, they could have done a lot worse than to have him in the last half of the series. So I give him thumbs up. But Tony Harris gets 2 thumbs up. Way up for the first half of the series, but overall, I mean, if you're interested in seeing good, we get also the fringe superheroes from DC's output in the early to mid '90s, because this is back when all the superheroes are all of the we're big extreme fighting, beating the crap out of other people, superhero agenda. This is back when Superman was dead, when Batman's bat was broken, when we've got we got the rise of Image as well, and then you got this other minor superhero. So it's all about more building character than anything else, and that's Starman's legacy more than anything else. That you could build a superhero series around character building rather than around superhero action.
No, I'll have to comment on that too. I totally skimming through both of these issues. I totally agree with you. Tony Harris compared to Peter Snejbjerg. Tony Harris's artwork, when you're looking at the work, it totally sets the mood for how it's building up the story. I'm looking at Peter Snejbjerg's artwork, and I don't get that same feeling. And granted, I personally, growing up reading comic books and looking at artwork, I've always been a Marvel person myself.
Yeah.
I wouldn't say I despise DC, but I've never been interested in DC because you had those main comic book characters like Superman, Wonder Woman, Green Lantern, all those characters.
Yeah, those iconic characters you're going to love.
Yeah, you had those iconic characters that never interested me compared to Marvel's like Spider-Man, Wolverine, yada, yada, yada. Basic point being said, after listening to you explain the story and skimming through the comic book, I realized that, especially when you had mentioned in your other podcast about the 100 Bullets.
Yeah.
I've been missing out on really good storylines. It's just that my biased opinion about DC and Marvel, I've kind of missed out on, these stories. And personally myself, I've always read comic books based on the artists like Jim Lee and Jim Lee, Mark Silvestri, all those guys. So DC never had those guys, so I never really paid attention to them. But I'm looking at the artwork here. These guys have great arts.
Yeah, Snejbjerg has his own style.
Yeah,
it's not as dense as or as dynamic as Tony Harris, but he's got his own style. And yeah, DC's never been about like really about putting artists first, and when they do, they usually wind up like having their series delayed,
Right.
like longer than anything else. But
Exactly, and it's like, and you know what? It's like, I mean, personally, me, I put artists first over story. That's just how I am because I'm an artist. But, like looking at these books and these volumes, I realize that I've been missing out on some great stuff, and the storylines seem like they're very dynamic to where like you're very involved with the character. It's just when you're looking at the artwork, especially with how you pronounce his last name, Peter
Schnitzberger. I'm sorry,
Yeah, Peter
Peter, if you're
Schnitzberger.
listening to this, I'm sorry for pronouncing your last name wrong, but it's like we're looking at this and we're doing our best right here.
Butcher. Just kidding. Don't worry about it. It's not
Yeah.
important.
And I'm sorry if you feel this way, or if you get pissed off if I say this comparison. But when I'm looking at your art, I'm not saying totally to you, Peter, but when I'm looking at the artwork in this particular book, there's just a part of me that just thinks like Mary Wentworth or like Stan Lee's Spider-Man when it was in the newspapers and shit.
Okay, so you think it's like it's newspaper quality stuff then?
That's how I feel when I look at this volume of Starman. But when I look at Tony Harris's version of like the first volume, I get a different feel from it, and I feel like I'm in the mood. Like, to me, it's like, I don't know, I don't want to compare it to Watchmen, but it gives it, like, when you're looking at when you're reading the Watchmen graphic novel,
Yeah.
like you're being put in that mood, that darkness, where like, ooh, like I'm totally feeling it just by looking at it, but not even when you're reading it, when you're looking at it, you're put in the mood like, ooh, something fucked up is about to happen.
Yeah.
Or something like sinister is about to happen. That's how I feel when I read the first volume. Even in 100 Bullets, like when you reviewed that earlier, like when I looked at I didn't even read it. Like I just looked at scenes, looked at the drawings. Like I kind of felt that way. Like I haven't even read the comic, but I kind of got that feeling like, oh, this would be an interesting read because it gives me like a moody kind of feeling. Mm-hmm. And with the second half of Starman, I don't get that same feeling. Like it just gives me the feeling like I'm reading another Superman or Green Lantern or one of the commercial characters comics books.
Yeah, I know what you're saying. It's like Schnitzberger's like art is more conventional, more it's like less dynamic, but
Yeah.
I mean he's good at telling story. He's got his own particular style.
Yeah.
So I mean, like, I look at this and like it's like it's sad that Tony Harris couldn't commit to the rest of the series. That he wanted to go and do his own own stuff.
Right.
Which I gotta give him more power to. Like if you want, like, you're a creator, you want to do stuff that you own, as opposed to work on a creator, as opposed to a character that's owned by a company like DC or Marvel.
Right.
Then like that's more power to you. I give you props for that. But like, with Schnitzberger's stuff, I mean, it's like he's got a good sense of. He knows how to tell a story.
Yeah.
It's like he knows how to present stuff in the way that's going to most appeal to the audience in his style.
And I'm not saying that his art style is like crappy or shitty or whatsoever. It's just that like when I read that book,
Yeah.
it's just I don't get the same feeling like going from volume 1 to volume 2 of the paperback. Like I'm pretty sure like if he was given the story and artists like dealing in the comic book world, artists, they're given that type of freedom.
Yeah,
or
they
restriction.
come and go.
They come and go. The artists come and go. They're given the different types of freedoms or restrictions. God knows what. But I'm not saying like his art style is shitty. Like he has a really good art style. It's just like compared to Volume 1, which you showed me, which was Tony Harris, compared to Volume 2, it was like
Volume 10 actually.
It was Volume 10.
Yeah.
Okay, Volume 10. I didn't feel the same way. And granted, like I'm just jumping ahead of myself because I've never read these comic books. Mm-hmm. I've never like been interested in DC or DC characters or Starman for that instance. I'm just skimming through on what you've given me, and what you just gave me right now, like I'm skimming through like Tony Harris's artwork, and I'm like, damn, dude, like I've been missing out. And I skimmed through Peter Snegberger. I'm sorry if I fucked up your name. I've been skimming through Peter Snegberger, and I'm like, damn, whatever.
Yeah,
so you're saying that the art is actually, and I'm not trying to turn your podcast into a debate,
right?
But I'm just saying that it does for you. It sets the mood. It's important.
It's important to me. Like,
so you think that you're saying, irregardless of the actual storyline,
irregardless of the actual storyline.
Well, let me ask you this hypothetical. Like I said, not a debate question though, but let's say, do you like the Batman movies that Christopher Nolan directed?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Another movie came out. Christopher Nolan directed it, but it wasn't Christian Bale, and there was a slight difference in like the quality, like the way the movie looked. Would you still like it?
I'm sorry. Repeat that question.
Okay, so let's say Christian Bale is not in the next Batman film, but it's still directed and written by Christopher Nolan. But let's say that the look of the film changes quite a bit.
That would be more important to me than anything else because I mean, like you get, like, it's.
I know it's a different medium. It's just a slight.
I know. We're still talking. We're still talking about on the topics of comic books, comic book movies.
Correct.
If they were to create a Batman 3, and Christian Bale wasn't Batman / Bruce Wayne, or even if Christopher Nolan was directing or not directing, depending on how they did the film. Depending on how they created the film would establish my criticism on it. Same thing with fucking Spider-Man. I'm the most diehard. I got a fucking Spider-Man tattoo on my left arm, for crying out loud.
Yeah.
I'm the most diehard Spider-Man fan ever. Everybody shits on Spider-Man 3, but I will defend it. I do like Spider-Man 3. I do hate the fact that they put the emo shit in there, and I hate the fact that
no, it's like emo Spider-Man and Spider-Man 3 was fucking hilarious. Like he does his dance. It's like that's I laugh my ass off. That's supposed to be intentionally hilarious on Sam Raimi's part.
And I agree with you because like when Peter Parker got the symbiote, he became a dickhead.
Yeah,
and to me, emo. I wouldn't say all emo kids, but I mean, when you think emo, you think of dickheads. That's what most. I'm sorry to say that. That's what like a lot of most of my friends think, and I don't think that way. But I like everybody. But if they're a dickhead, they're a dickhead.
I'll give you this. Here's my opinion, and I'll tell you why I brought Batman up, because I was a fan of the first two films. Largely of the original Batman, and when Batman Begins came out, I didn't even want to touch it with a 10-foot pole because of the way it looked.
Really?
Oh yeah, because I'm like, that's not Batman. Batman is a dark character set in dark
Begins?
scenes. Batman Begins, sir. And I said, you know what? I'm not touching it because of the way it looked, and I refused to watch it in the theaters because of the way it looked. And I said, you know what? I don't dig this. This is not the way I understand Batman. And then, wait. I gotta finish. Let me finish my train of thought, and then I'll let you interject. And then eventually on DVD I saw it, and I said, okay.
So you never saw it in theater?
Never did. Yeah, see, but I used your argument, and I turned it around, and I just wanted to show you that after I did give it a chance, I said, this storyline is great.
Yeah.
It's awesome. And regardless of the way it looks, I actually liked Tim Burton's dark spin on the entire series. Kind of inspired that whole cartoon that was Batman, the animated series. And I loved the way that looked. When it was really brightened up, I said, "What the hell did they do with this?" So for me, the vision of it changed, but it took a long time to sway me over. And then I saw that the story was good, and I said, okay, I can actually... So, if you will, Batman Begins, I don't actually like the way that it's shot as much as I like the storyline.
Okay, not to drag this topic, this debate back on topick.
Yeah,
you've got basically the whole point of this is, I mean, you've got regardless of the change in artist from Tony Harris to Peter Snezberg, you still got James Robinson writing Starman from beginning to end, and like the fact that he's like in charge of the character, that he's debating that he's putting his voice on the character like from beginning to end. That's what carries you on from like over the change in artists. I mean, yeah, there's a change in artist, there's a change in style, but you're still going to want to read this because it's still the same Jack Knight that you read from beginning to end, and that's more than anything else. That's the most important thing in terms of transition.
And that's how I see it now. I would say even if someone were to reinterpret Batman, and actually there was a reinterpretation.
Like if they replaced like Christian Bale with Jake Gyllenhaal.
Boo.
No,
I like Jake Gyllenhaal. I'm just using this.
My other example is one that actually Myron did show me, and I wouldn't watch the Batman for the same exact reason. I didn't like the artwork compared to the original, compared to the animated series. But then when I gave the storyline,
I'm sorry. Wait, what?
That's exactly right. The Batman animated series.
Oh, the new one. That
you didn't like that animation?
No, wait. Now, give me a chance. You got your opinion in? I'm getting my opinion in. I didn't like it compared to Batman the animated series.
Of course,
Bruce Timm stuff.
Of course,
to me, is superior. And I watched it, and you were talking to me about some of how they redid some of the storyline, and I watched it, and I'm like, okay, I actually like it. But the animation turned me off, actually. And that's funny because it turns you on. See, and that so for me, art style, and go swing it back to Starman real quick. Art style actually can swing an audience left or right. It's like if I took Harry Potter and I shot him with a totally new cast and I decided to make it a little bit more realistic.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, and people will go, "That's not how the other 5 movies are shot," but the storyline would be the same.
We'll see. Okay, even I like what I'm about to say. I think kind of correlates with everything we've been talking about. Like getting back to John's argument right now. Like to me, the original Batman cartoon series from the '90s, nothing can fuck with that. That is
hell yeah!
That is the ultimate telling of Batman in an animated series ever. However, the new Batman series, like done by the company that did the Jackie Chan adventures, that can't touch the 90s Batman ever. That can never ever touch it. However, I do like the animation style. I do like the retelling of certain villains, like coming up. However, like classic villains like the Joker, Two-Face, or not Two-Face, Clayface. Like in the new series, Clayface was like Bruce Wayne's best friend, and he became Clayface because Joker jacked him up because of his new Joker formula. Okay, that was a little bit ridiculous. Granted, there is a little bit ridiculous in the new Batman series. However, with certain older characters, I do like the retelling of like their origins. But nothing can touch the original. Well, I wouldn't even say this is original. Nothing can touch the '90s Batman's cartoon. I think that's the best Batman retelling ever.
Right.
And it goes to my point, like coming back to Starman, is just getting like certain comic books or certain comic book animated series. Their art style will draw you. It draws in certain people. Like certain people like to be visually stimulated, and certain styles will bring them in more than just story alone. Like. And that's why I really hated on DC. I never really liked DC growing up because Superman, he's from outer space and he could fuck everybody up. No one could fuck with him except for a guy who makes $1 billion a year and could. and could.
Well, you see, that's a whole different podcast right there. Talking about why Lex Luthor.
I'm not gonna go deep into this because that's a whole different podcast. But that's just how I felt about DC characters. Like, I just kind of felt there wasn't a whole lot of depth to DC characters compared to Marvel until Jason introduced me to comic books such as 100 Bullets or even Starman. Like, I've heard of Starman for a really long time. Just because it was DC label, I never gave it a chance. So that's just all I'm saying. And then all I'm saying, too, is, like, a lot of my favorite artists, they were drawn to Marvel or they were drawn to Image. That's all. That's basically all I'm saying. And now that I'm an adult and I appreciate story, depth, art, even fuller than I did than I was in high school, I can see what I was missing out on, and I'm willing to give it a chance now.
Okay, well, now this is done. It's like I have to. Aside from Starman, I have to introduce you to Hitman as well.
Hitman.
Yeah, it's like that's old. I've actually done that podcast. So I have to tell you to listen to that instead. But
Okay.
it's like that being said, it's like, hey, if you can find Starman in like regular trade paperback form, more highly recommended. You can find it in the omnibus form. Yeah, it's expensive, but to be honest, I'd buy that as well because of what I've read of it. Aside from just getting like every like Starman story in order, you also get writer James Robinson's thoughts on each issue as well. And that for me, that's more than enough recommendation you need in order to get it. So on that note, I'm gonna call a night and talk to you guys later.
Bye.
Bye.